24th, and I would like to go ahead and call May 23rd. I'd like to go ahead and, oh, the agenda is wrong. I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 7:13 PM. At this time, if I can please have a moment of silent meditation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have a roll call?
Roll call. Mayor Claudia Cubillos.
Here.
Councilperson Mathis.
Present.
Councilperson Roman.
Here.
We have quorum, madam.
And for the record, Councilperson Dre is not here, and Vice Mayor Nickerson is not here. Also for the record, we have Attorney Geller present, CFO Erwin Williams present, and our manager, David Roseman, present. And on behalf of Chief Morales, Sergeant Huffnagel is present, and we have Raul from Cap Government. Thank you for being here. At this time, we have a motion of the agenda as is, or are there any additions or deletions? Three things. The date must reflect today's date, which is May 23rd. Next thing, Senator Daphne Campbell is not coming, so we can scratch that off the agenda. On Resolution 2017-15, vehicle is spelled incorrectly. And I think those were the only things for the agenda that I have. Anything else? Hearing none, may I get a motion for approval of the agenda with the corrections?
Motion.
It's been motioned by Councilperson Roman. May I get a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Mathis. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. At this time, to have a motion of approval of the minutes. I did have one correction.
Did you give this to them?
I read the minutes, but I was unclear on a couple of sections, and I asked Shanice to get me audio on that, and I was waiting for it. But if you guys have read it and you're fine with it,
Which section?
it was. Oh, Omar had made a statement. I think it was.
At the end?
Yes, it was in the reports. Omar had mentioned something that I had in my notes, but I wasn't quite sure, and I didn't see it in her notes, so I asked her to get me audio of that. And she didn't, because she was in school, so. But if you guys are...
I'm comfortable
Okay.
moving that. It's fine. We don't have to approve them this evening. If we don't have a motion to approve them, we can move them for the second one. Let's go ahead and move the minutes to April 20.
Excuse me?
The minutes to April 25th?
Oh, the minute.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and move the minutes to April 25th to the June meeting. It's fine. 1 second. Let's move this out. Okay, great. There are no visitors or no, okay, perfect. At this time, anybody in good and welfare would like to come up and say anything with regards to anything on the agenda? Hearing none, I'll go back to,
Has to be on the agenda. I wanted to say something.
go ahead.
I just wanted to let the council know that Kaven Davis passed away. He was a community liaison for Commissioner Edmonds for the longest time, and I wanted to, for the council as a whole, to send out something to the family.
You can send something up to him.
I already did, but I wanted the council to do it as a whole.
Go ahead and email the clerk, and then she can get back to us on that. Anything else on good and welfare?
Just for the record, Mayor, we are being recorded, right?
Yes, absolutely. Anything else on good and welfare? All right, hearing none, we'll go to the first agenda item, which is year-to-date financials with Erwin Williams.
For the record, Councilperson Dreher is present.
Do you all have your April financial packets?
No, I do not have mine.
Okay. So I'll just give an overview of some of the items that we talked about in Finance Administration for the council. I presented the financials to Finance Administration for the 7 months ended April 30th, 2017. During that meeting, we looked at each individual department to see where we are year-to-date, and there were certain departments that were over budget that the council needs to be aware of, and will require a budget amendment in order to be in compliance. First department, the major one, is in the area of planning and zoning. Right now, I'm projecting that in planning and zoning, we're going to have to do an amendment for about $90,000. And I am working on a projection for every department to the end of the year, which will be complete by the end of next week. But just looking at the planning and zoning, let me just find it. There's two main lines. One is that we replaced the contractual services for CAP with a salaried position for Elena, really, which is starting at the beginning of May. She had a very small amount in April, the majority is starting in May. That's going to add about $22,000 of line item to the budget for the salaried position to the end of the year. On the cap, there will be a saving of about $6,000 unused of the contractual services to the end of the year, but actually it's going to be a little more than that. It's going to be about $20,000. So we're going to save $20,000 in expense on the cap side, but we're going to be spending it as a salaried position line item now. Because cap to the end of April, we spent $88,000 and the budget was $109,000. So we had about $21,000 of expenditure that we're not going to incur, offset by $21,000 of expenditure we will incur as a salaried line item. So it's going to be a wash to the end of the year. On the master plan, however, I'm projecting right now, assuming, and David, you can help me with this, if there's any other expenditures anticipated between May and September on the master plan consultants?
No. The master plan, that line item should be completed in the contract with Craig Smith and Associates.
Okay.
That's basically,
That was it.
that was it.
Because we had budgeted $45,000 for the year, and as of the end of April, we're at $113,238, so we're $68,000 over budget on that line item, which will require us to do an amendment, a budget amendment, to be in compliance. And of course, that's going to come from it's either going to come from a saving from another department, and if there's no saving available, it would come from your unrestricted fund balance at that point. Village clerk is fine. We're going to be under budget, it looks like. Yes, go ahead.
Well, you're going to cover the revenue right after, correct?
Yeah, revenue
Okay,
last.
that's fine.
Public affairs, we're going to be over budget. We're already at what the budget was for the year. We still have several events left to the end of the year. I have to just project, based on the events that haven't been held yet, what that final number is going to be. And of course, if there's any revenue anticipated to offset those expenditures, we'll have to modify that in the adjustment to our revenues to the end of the year also. The police, we're going to have to do I'm projecting right now about a $20,000 to $25,000 adjustment to the end of the year. And that's to account for we had under budgeted most of it's going to be on vacation and sick pay. We're under budgeted about $30,000. We didn't know what was going on at the beginning of the year, and we have to adjust accordingly for the retirement for Adlet and for Morales, for their monies that was paid up. But it's going to be about $20,000.
40 or 30?
20, about 20,000. And again, I'm going to work, these are just projections right now. I'm going to have good numbers for you by the end of next week. What I'm doing is taking what we've done to the end of April, what I'm projecting you'll do from May to the end of September, and then comparing that against budget. Public Works, we're going to have a big saving, but I know, David, you want to talk a minute about, there's a line item that I think is going to be added to Public Works.
Well, but just continue.
Okay, so we're going to have, we have about I'm projecting about a $60,000 under budget position in Public Works at the end of the year. In other words, that could be used to offset overages on other departments, or it could be used for additional line items within the Public Works Department. Code enforcement is fine, police was fine, public affairs we talked about, village clerk is fine. It'll be a little bit under budget, but it's still fine. Council is all right. Revenue, so you wanted to talk about the revenues. The one line item I see that it looks like we may have over budgeted is on building permits. We budgeted $150,000 at the beginning of the year. We're at $84,000 as of the end of April. In the month of May, we've got about $8,000 so far that's coming in permits. Let's call it $10,000 for the month. So with 5 months left, we'd have 50 plus 84 is going to be 130-something thousand. So we're going to be about $15,000 short on permits. But in permits, you don't know. I don't know what the activity is going to be month to month. It can vary from, you could have 15,000 one month, 5 the next. So we really don't know. Other revenues, the other permits is in the same position. We had budgeted $10,000 for proceeds of sales of cars, and we haven't sold any. So that's going to be a line item we'll adjust for. That'll be, we're going to have to adjust that for $10,000 at the end of the year. I don't think we sold any police cars this year, right? No. So we haven't sold any.
Do we have any to sell?
Well, I assume if we go ahead and purchase the new cars, we'll have about, what, 3 or 4? 3? 3. But again, those still won't generate probably 10. We're probably going to go, what, about 2,000 a car? Yeah, so about $6,000 we'll realize on that. Hall rentals looks like it's going to be under also. We had budgeted $15,000 for the year. We're not even close. We're at about $3,000 year to date. So I don't know if there's been much of a push as far as renting out the hall, but we're going to be under. Those are the main ones that I see. Ad valorem is right on track. We're at 95% right now, 94%, so we're fine on it. In fact, we'll probably be over by the end of June when the tax certificate sales come in. Those are the major ones as far as revenues go. Mary, did you have some questions? Do you remember you said one of my coming?
It was in the building department, but you answered that building department.
Okay.
It was in the building department. My question was, can you remind me, I don't have the top of my head, what was the amendment that we did last summer for the last budget? Was it 276?
No, we did. There was never a mid-year budget amendment done.
No, there wasn't, but we had to take out from the reserves. How much was it? Was it about 276?
I don't remember now. You mean the final that we did in November? Yeah, it was, the
For
loss
15,
was about
16.
200, I think.
It was over 200?
Yeah, 200 and something, yeah. 208, 207, something like that.
And what amendment do you think we're going to have to do about this year?
Well, since it's in flux right now, to me, it doesn't make sense. We're so far into the year to do an amendment in June and then have to do another one later on. I'd rather just wait till we get close
August.
to the end in August or so and then do one final amendment.
So from what I've gathered so far, we have, what is it, about 115?
Maybe a little more.
A little more.
Yeah.
That's not including the cars.
No, not counting the cars.
No. Okay.
The cars is going to be, whatever the cars is going to be 145, I think the number was in the cars. If that changed, I'm not sure, but it was around 145.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, it was like 206.
From last year?
Sticking out of my head, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And what I told the manager today is that since we are over budget in some of these areas, that I've told him what I'm going to do from now to the end of the year. If there's a budgeted line item that's over budget already, I'm going to kick back the expenditure unless everybody agrees that we're going to spend it.
Okay.
Because, we have to get to a point where a budget is meant to adhere to, and we haven't been doing it. So we need to start looking at each line, and if we're overspent on a line item, there has to be consensus that we're either going to move it from somewhere else, or we're not going to allow the expenditure.
Sounds good.
All right?
Any questions for Erwin?
That's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I assume the cars is on a different, we're going to talk about the cars.
The police cars is the last resolution. Yes, for the last resolution. If you wanted to stay for that, we could probably move it up. Because I would think that the first one's probably going to take a bit of a conversation. Are you staying for the police car resolution?
If you want me to, I will.
So we can move it up if need be.
Okay,
If
fine.
we're taking too long.
Okay.
Okay. Agenda item, thank you. Agenda item H2, engineering services. Mr. Manager?
Yes, this is a result of an RFQ that was issued at the beginning of the month. I can't remember exactly the date. It was due on the 19th. It was reviewed on the 22nd, and there was a selection committee created by me particularly, and there were 4 submittals provided, and we agreed unanimously that Pennoni was the best firm to be brought forward to the council for consideration and approval. Councilperson Dreher has been participating in this process, and I'll know, Councilperson, if you'd like to add anything to my remarks.
Sure. Just to add to some background, right? So yesterday we met at 7 o'clock here. We had a selection process, which we pretty much identified key criteria, selections criteria for the submittal work that you see a couple of the binders our mayor has in front of her. So we reviewed that with 2 other folks, and based on the criteria, I'm sorry, could we ask the audience to please just stay? Thank you. We were able to come up with the selection process, the final results based on the criteria. So the criteria we evaluated was qualification of experience, key personnel, project approach, ability to obtain funding. So each of those criteria, they were designated weighing criteria. Everybody, the 3 members that reviewed this, we all reviewed the pamphlets that you have here that were submitted by each of the firms, and unanimously we all basically came up to give the highest score to Pennoni based on the information that was provided to us for this RFQ.
Let me just add, to Councilperson Dreher, the reason why we conducted this RFQ is because, as we all have been talking about, we understand that there's a need for funding, for public funding for our water projects, both the conversion from septic tank to sewer line, and for a upgrade of our stormwater infrastructure. I became aware of funding from the Department of Environmental Protection, particularly a program for small municipalities of 10,000 residents or less that will provide a substantial amount of money through grant and a smaller component through loan for the implementation of these projects. We felt, and I think that I have brought this up to the council previously, that this will be a good opportunity, a more certain opportunity to put forth an application that, even in the case that it will not get funded, will be ready for submittal to the same agency in next years, or to other agencies similar to this consideration for funding. I see that we have Stephen Elias and his colleague Man Gomez here from Pennoni, and they are prepared to provide a little bit of a perspective on exactly what it is that we seek to do, and that the firm is prepared to provide for the Village of Airport Town.
Any comments from the council?
Who, may I ask, what's the 3rd person in the committee?
Robert Ruano, our grant writer.
So the 3 members were?
David?
Dreher, myself, and Ruano.
Geller, is it normal to have a commissioner on a selection committee? Usually I was under the impression that we didn't do that to keep it non-political.
I don't know of anything that ripped. It's done different ways in different locales, and Broward typically, they used to do that. I'm not sure they're still doing it, but I know they did, so.
I'm not sure it's
that's,
best practices still, but okay. Any other questions? I mean, before I go ahead and interject, I mean, I'll ask Panini to come on up, and then the council can further discuss it moving forward, and I will go ahead and say in a couple of things that I feel about it. But if you'd like to come up and say something.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Steve Elias with Pannoni. Work out of our Miami Beach and Winter Haven offices. I'm here to answer any questions you might have, but I think we submitted a pretty comprehensive proposal. We're excited about the opportunity. Really, our niche is small communities and finding funding. And we happened to meet David and through a colleague and talking about some of our recent grant success, and then we started talking about El Portal, and it sounded like we're pretty confident that you have a situation here that we think we would be successful in obtaining funding assistance for the village. The thing about that is it's really kind of a sweet spot and some short timelines that, and we can go into that now or wait till after you discuss. But there's, I guess the plan would be hopefully the village would pick us to be the prime consultant on this selection. If that happens, we have a short time period that we'd be working against. On June 26th, we have a number of cities that we're submitting applications for June 26th for the deadline for the August hearing. What happened last year in this program, quite frankly, is there weren't enough small cities to apply for the money they had. They actually still have leftover money from 2016. And they're actually starting a new fiscal year starting in August. But we think the sea level rise, the Little River situation with stormwater runoff, we think that an 80% grant is in the cards for a real serious opportunity for the village. So that would what we would be ultimately working for is applying for the August hearing. But they're very picky. These grant funds are highly competitive. If you don't make the deadlines, you wait till the next hearing kind of thing. So we've already kind of started that process, and we think, I know the village has done some prior planning on the stormwater side in 2002. And there's also the Craig A. Smith study that was done here in 2017. That'll serve as a good foundation as a building block for this process, but the DEP, they call it the State Revolving Fund Program. They've got some very specific requirements that you have to prove that you've looked at several alternatives. You have to look at the 20-year life cycle cost of whatever improvements being proposed. They want to provide, they basically want assurance that because these grant funds are limited, they want to make sure that before they award any grant funding that several alternatives have been evaluated and that the least expensive alternative has been selected prior to awarding those grant funds. So that's essentially what we'd have to pick up the ball from those previous studies to do that.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
You said you're presenting for a few cities on the 26th. Are those cities in Miami-Dade County? And if so, what are they? Who are they?
They're not in Miami-Dade because, quite frankly, you have to be less than 10,000 people. There's several in Central Florida.
There's several cities in Miami-Dade County that are under 10,000.
Yeah, but we're not representing them. No.
Have you made an attempt, or have they just not?
No. Quite frankly, in the state last year, there were only 5 cities that got grant funding, and we represented like 3 of them. And if we're not working for them, because these are competitive funds, we don't send around memos to help out other cities. We help the cities that we're representing. So now, tonight, if we're fortunate enough to be selected to be the village engineer on this effort, we would be representing you. We've already met with DEP, the head of DEP, about this. We've gone over an action plan and a timeline, so we're pretty confident that, both on the stormwater front, really got two projects here. You got a stormwater project, you have a wastewater project. We're pretty confident of the track, and we'll elaborate on that further as time progresses. That's a quick and dirty. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the selection process.
And this would be an
or-
additional, how much money that would be taken out of the reserve that was not budgeted for?
Well, we can tie this to our public works budget, and it will be $20,000 what it will cost us. And the size of the grants are between $3 and $3.5 million.
Yeah, that all sounds good, but okay.
Well, if I could respectfully add to that, the wonderful thing about this program, it's geared towards small cities, and they know cash flow and limited budgets is always a challenge. Quite frankly, I was telling David, in my experience, probably 9 out of every 10 good ideas within small cities never make it off the ground because they can never find the planning money and the design money to get it shovel ready, that's the key thing these days, getting things shovel ready. The beautiful thing about this program is if you can overcome the planning, which you're about to, it sounds like, they will fund the design and they will fund the construction, and there will be no from a cash flow standpoint, there will be no out-of-pocket cash flow until 6 months after the project is constructed. So that makes it very attractive if you can get an 80% grant along the way to do
Is there any
that.
questions for Steve, right?
Yes.
Is there any questions for Steve?
So the way, I just want to make sure I understand what you just said. The way that it works is that we do not have to come out of pocket with anything until after?
6 months after construction, with the exception of the planning in this case. Now, you've already done a significant amount of planning. It needs
Right.
to be updated and, we'll say, check the boxes with DEP, because there's, like I said, alternatives analysis has to be proven to them. There has to be an environmental effort to make sure, there's no environmental issues with the projects that are being proposed. And you have to look at the life cycle, 20-year cost of operating and maintaining this. You have to prove to them, signed and sealed engineering document, that you're picking the most economical solution. If you can do that, and then they approve the plan, then you advance to the design stage. But because the way we describe this is, make sure the media's here, as he was listening. It's sort of a race to who gets shovel ready, because this program has been in hibernation, we'll say, the last 3 or 4 years, because they overspent. And some things got shifted around budget-wise. There's now grant money available for small cities. So that's why there's not a lot of them out there the last few years.
So the only thing would be $20,000 initially?
Yes, cash flow initially.
Can I ask our engineers for his opinion, since he's here? Do you mind? Raul?
I have not reviewed.
You have not reviewed, okay.
So I forgot.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm a little confused. Is this the first time we're hearing about this? Part of my, I don't remember.
No, this RFQ has been brought up a few times, and it's been more, a bit quick. Unfortunately, I got really ill a couple of weeks ago, and I missed the committee meeting, and this is something I really wanted to opine on, because I felt it was going a little faster, and then we got an email from a clerk from one of our commissioners with regards to a timeline. And if there's one thing I've learned in 8 years here, is when things are rushed, not necessarily you're making the best decisions. So I feel like we are being rushed. And when I just finished hearing from our CFO about the money that we're going to have to take out, I want to take a look at our reserves, and while I understand, and I'm sure this is a great program, I did take the time to call my colleagues. I called 4 mayors in towns of under $10,000 residents, to sort of get their opinion, which is what I normally do when I need to make a decision for the village. And I didn't get great feedback. So I'm not ready to feel comfortable, but again, the decision does not rest with me, it rests with the council. That's where I'm at right now. While I do believe it's an opportunity, whether it's a missed opportunity if we don't do it, or whatever the case may be, I just think it's a little rushed. And I know it's because we have to meet a deadline in August, and I get all that, and I respect it, and so on and so forth, but I've been rushed before and the results are never great, so I don't want to be rushed. I don't know if that really answers your question, I apologize, but I think it has come up and I feel there's flaws in the selection process as well, and I'll be very honest. So I would have rather Raul, our engineer, to have been a part of the selection process as a really unbiased opinion, but that's sort of where I stand at the moment.
Just 2 points. One is the funds would not come out of our general operating budget. Those funds would come out of the stormwater fund balance.
Okay.
So if we have a fund balance of $600,000-$700,000 and there's a 20% match, if it's a $3 million project, our match is going to be $600,000.
So my question would be, if we get the 575 right now that the state, that we have a line item for, and it's a match, where is that going to come out of?
It would come out of the stormwater.
And how much money
You
do we
can't-
have in the
You couldn't
stormwater?
do both. You couldn't do both
Okay,
with the stormwater.
that's where, I know that there's things in
The big
play.
difference
I think
is
there's a-
that this is a 20% match versus a
No,
50% match.
it's not a match. There is the 20% is a loan. So it's 80% grant, 20% loan at 0 to 1% interest rate. And the loan is to be paid back 6 months after the project is completed. So basically, we are getting very low-cost money.
If we get the money.
If we get the-
It's like
Again,
lobbying
but
effort,
you still have
if
to
we
have
get
the
it.
funds to repay the loan.
We have to have the revenues, because
Right.
it's a loan over 20 years payment. So we could get the loan, we can pay back the loan just on the revenues of what we will get from our storm revenues.
Yeah, we get approximately $42,000 a year coming in from stormwater that we could use to fund that debt obligation, I guess, when it comes in.
I'm glad you clarified that. It is, the payback starts 6 months after construction, but it's a 20-year loan, as little as 0%. We've got some cities getting 0% right now. So, but you can't predict the future. Let's just call it between 0 and 1. But it's definitely, it's like a 60% discount to the rate you could bond anything else in the city. It's a discount. So it's a wonderful program. Again, the other thing tonight, as I understand it, really the only decision that's being made is to select us to do this work. It's not signing any actually, the other part would be to execute a master agreement to allow us to be hired in the future. But any financial obligations associated with this, whether it be the design or any construction, every decision has to come back to the council. This doesn't commit you to anything. This
Well, but
just positions you for the opportunity.
It does commit them to the $20,000.
Yes.
And that's what's being discussed here.
But beyond that, beyond the plan, I'm assuming
Right.
that the village would move forward with the planning.
Right.
But you would wait until the August hearing comes, and they would say either you were approved or you're not approved. And if you were approved, it has to come back, there has to be a loan agreement then that's prepared, a loan and grant agreement that DEP would prepare. It would come back to the council for consideration. You could say no. We've never had a city say no to 80% grant, but I guess anything's possible. But that decision would come back to you, and if you say no, you walk away and no obligation. And this is the way I see it, it would be a multi-year commitment, because there is a cap each year of like $4 million, the most you could ask for. So you would approach this in a phased approach, approximately $4 million, because they only have $12 to $15 million a year that go towards these small cities. But right now, there's not a lot of cities applying, so the short term looks really good. And I did ask, the new administration, who knows what will happen in Congress, but they're trying to bump up the funding, not take it back. So it's a good time. The next 2 years, it's probably as good as I've seen in the last 20 for small cities like this. But really, it's a race to who wants to get shovel ready.
Any other questions for the Pannoni Group?
There's an article in Florida Trends, I believe it was December, about your company, correct?
Probably.
I read the Florida Trend, I didn't see it.
December.
Yeah, and we provided references. I think there's 5 or 10 of them in our submittal. Other small cities who, quite frankly, have already participated in this. They can give testimonials if anybody has any questions. Several mayors, city managers, public works directors.
So I think what I want to understand is what are the concerns?
If it's my concern and reason I may not, if we're going to ask for a motion, is number one, I think the process was a little flawed. And I just think that right now, while $4 million sounds attractive, you're thinking, oh, I'm gambling $20,000 to get $4 million. I mean, it just sounds attractive, but as I get feedback, and I did do my homework. I asked the manager to send me everything, and I got it, and I did do some homework. There's certain things about the process that I'm not comfortable with, and it's not on anybody. It's more, when I make the decision, I don't make it on behalf of Claudia Cabillas, I make it on behalf of the residents, so that there's complete transparency. And I can't vote that way if I don't feel that way. And at this time, but there's a whole council here. There's a whole council here.
Are there any questions that you have concerns over that I might be able to answer?
I would have loved to see more successes in Miami-Dade County. There wasn't. They're all in south, north. I don't see any successes in Miami-Dade County. Clearly that's who I would look to in terms of when I'm calling. There was a couple small cities that I did call, just because I happen to know certain people there that I've just met through the years. So it was just, it's just my personal opinion and my professional opinion, where between the process, the rush, and to get in here today. And again, I apologize because I was going to go in much great length during the committee meeting, but I did miss it, where I wanted to have the opportunity to talk to the entire committee, but we're here. But again, the decision does not rest on me, the rest is on the entire council, so I'm just one. I'll leave it to the council, and if there's a motion that, how this process, and also, it was also my understanding that when we do an RFQ, it's because we're selecting qualified organizations, not that we're selecting one and then going into an agreement with one. So in my experience as a commissioner, we go through RFQs, we approve vendors so that when we need to do work, we have an approved vendor list and that have been sort of met, been vetted through a professional committee. But this RFQ did that, but then it tied us to one organization, one company, and a resolution is going to have to be made of $20,000, and then it's sort of an additional step.
If I may, Madam Mayor, I thought about that. We followed the same process when we chose Teach Levice. In fact, we didn't even have, I don't remember having a selection committee.
I know we didn't. It came to, it all came to us,
Right.
and we decided.
We decided.
If it's going to be, if it's going to, for lack of a better, if the manager decides the committee, I think that's the way the process would go, and I would think it's an organization of professionals. I mean, I think 8 years ago when we did it for waste management, we did, I think the council selected a committee, and it was all based on, I think, professionals that would be familiar with what the bid is all about. Or if the council's going to do it, then the council does it collectively, transparent, open, and then we do it together. Yes, that's another way.
The only comment, I understand your reservation, but the only comment I want to make is this is a multi-million-dollar project here in El Portal. Even if we got the $500,000 from the state, that would get you a little bit of the planning done, and then you're frozen because you don't have any money to do any of the design or the actual construction work. We're not going to be able to raise another $3 million. So if this is the project we really want to take on, where it will fund basically the whole project, and the debt that you have to repay, the 20%, is over 20 years at 0 to no interest. It sounds like a good opportunity. Of course, there's no guarantees. Mm-hmm. But when you pay a lobbyist, we have a budget of a lobbyist for $20,000 for the year. I think you got less of a guarantee with that, because you don't know. We can get selected, and again, the governor at the last minute can do what he did last time and just veto it and take it out of the budget. So you have to really think about the options and what the long-term goal for the village is.
There's another element in terms of the product that we will get. These are products that have a shelf life. So the application itself, the process, is one that can be shovel-ready for the following year or for other entities that will be receptive to that kind of application. We will not have to make another 20,000 investment to get this kind of application done. So this is the kind of a key to the next step that we would have been invested in, and then we will be able to shop it around. In fact, we could do that, together with the DEP with another, to seek funding for additional, work that needs to be done.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I'm caught on the fence about this. I understand where you're coming from because that's the way we do things, but I'm impressed that they took the bull by the horn and moved forward and brought us something, and I think I'm inclined to move forward with it. That's
Can I
just
just
my
ask one
personal
more
opinion.
question?
Yes.
Okay, so, to the mayor's concern, if you could just tell us a little bit about what your experience has been in speaking with cities within Miami-Dade, or if you haven't, or like I know that you happened to meet our manager, so what has your history or past been in regards to Miami-Dade?
Yeah, we've done a lot of structural work and some other kinds of work in Miami-Dade, but our utilities division, quite frankly, I was a principal of a smaller firm in Central Florida that got acquired by Pannoni. So now that we have these resources and the ability to move to other cities and other parts of the state, now we're talking water and sewer. But my experience is, for whatever reason in Miami-Dade, a lot of, I think people, it seems like they go for the glamour and the multi-million-dollar, the county has a $15 billion water and sewer budget. The big consultants are all in there going after that work, but the smaller cities seem to be neglected to some extent. So that's why we saw an opportunity. We started, one of the first small cities, we're talking with North Miami, or another city where I think we're on their next agenda for some assignments. But the small, less than 10,000 municipalities, I mean, quite frankly, like I said, last year there were only like 5 cities in the whole state of Florida that got this funding. So if you happen to be in that county, I don't think there was any from Dade County in that. There were a lot of Central Florida, like I said, 3 of the cities we represented in Central Florida,
Right.
so that's why they knew about it.
Right.
I'm not surprised, and that doesn't upset me that other small cities haven't heard about this, because that means the cities we represent have a better chance of getting funding.
Got it,
So-
okay. So the 3 of the cities that you represented got the funding?
Yeah, Lake Hamilton, and quite frankly, they paid for the design out of pocket just to get shovel-ready that quick, and they got their funding. They didn't want to wait. We're actually going to take the approach to ask for the design money, but they chose to go right because they were so excited about it. They went and paid for that out of pocket, and they got their. Matter of fact, it's a similar project, removing septic tanks and putting their commercial corridor on sewer. That was a $1.4 million project.
Right.
That's what their first phase was.
And so the other 2 that didn't get it from your cities that you represented, what were the reasons?
Other 2? Did I say other 2?
You said 5.
there was 5.
Oh, I don't know who. We just didn't happen to be working for them, but there were about 5 within Florida
okay.
that got funding
So
total.
you personally represented 3?
3 of those 5.
Got
yeah.
it, okay.
Yes.
I thought you represented 5 and only 3
No.
got it.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. Yeah, maybe I didn't
No, my mistake.
explain that.
I'm a little.
I probably said it too
so my
fast.
head is like, okay.
And if it makes you feel, comfort, again, really at this point, the only thing I think we're talking about is moving forward with the planning document, again, to position you to apply, to be eligible at the August hearing in Tallahassee. We are going to need to have some workshops and some outreach, because there's a lot of things that have to happen in the next 30 days to do this. It's not just submitting a form with your name on it. There are a lot of discussions we're going to need to have. So there'll be plenty of discussion about the project, both stormwater and wastewater. Primarily the wastewater one. Unfortunately, you're behind a little bit. The good thing is you have this Craig A. Smith master plan that's hot off the press. They've done a lot of work. We can reuse a lot of that work. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to polish it up a little bit and fit it in the format that the DEP wants to see, do some additional things, environmental work and life cycle cost analysis, alternative analysis. So we're in a great position to apply June 26. On the stormwater front, we've got to take a slower track. Matter of fact, that's what we propose to do, is to apply for planning money. The last plan you did was 2002. There's a lot of things that have happened since 2002 with sea level rise, with water quality treatment requirements, regulations have changed. So I think we'd recommend that you re-plan, build off of what you've already done, but update that before you jump into design.
Okay.
All right,
And
I'm
Steve,
ready.
I'm sorry.
Well, could I ask just one more thing
Yeah.
off the committee that's here? So when you were selecting, and now it's all coming back to me because his face is very familiar to
I
me.
spoke at one
Yeah,
of
we
your
did.
workshops,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, I remember. It's all coming back to me. So when you reviewed all of the proposals that you had, can each one of you explain how you came to the selection process and what were like the top 3 reasons?
Right. Well, the most important element that we took into consideration was the experience that the firms had in identifying and helping acquire funding for this project. There are lots of fantastic firms locally that do great engineer work, but the kind of expertise to understand exactly how do we get these projects to a state agency that provides funding is not something that is well mastered by a lot of engineering firms. In fact, that's where some of the lobbyists do their part. So here we have a kind of a twofer, because we have a company that provides engineering, has the technical expertise to put these things together, and understands the route through which to take it to receive funding. So there were 4 elements that we took into consideration, and that element was the one with the highest weight in terms of how this needed to be. Because what we truly need is funding. Craig Smith have done a wonderful job, but if we had the funding, they could run with the project. But what we don't have is the funding. So that's what we needed, that kind of assistance. The other element that was important to us was an understanding of small municipalities. This is their niche, and we many times find ourselves caught between the kind of services that we receive, because we are a very small municipality, and as such, we do not get the kind of consideration or attention that someone who has a 10 times the budget gets. So I particularly like that, because we now have a firm that could possibly cater to our particular needs and understands our circumstances. So that, for me, were the primary issues. I know that Councilperson Dreher has been wanting to say something, and I jumped in there
So
with the answer.
just to make sure I understand, so it was the experience, the ability to get the funding,
Right,
and then
identify.
the work within the small villages
Right.
or small municipalities. Okay. And for you?
Well, pretty much, we met yesterday at 7 o'clock. We had, obviously, selection criteria. We had a couple of elements based on this criteria. First was qualification experience. We based that qualification experience based on the material that everybody should have received and looked at. There's also in this material key personnel. It was listed like their CEOs, their engineers, their project managers.
Wait, can I
Then-
stop you right there? We received it when we arrived here, though.
Oh, you did?
We
Oh.
we did not receive this beforehand, just
Okay,
FYI.
that's-
Okay.
Okay, good point to make that. Then on the project approach, the documentation also includes different steps throughout the project. That includes such as like the project control monitoring, the planning, the execution, and then the 4th element is the ability to obtain the funding. Some of the firms that, David mentioned, this ability to obtain the funding, we gave it out of all the different criterias, we gave a 35%, right? Second to that was the experience, which is 30%, project approach 20%, and then the key personnel 15%. So our highest weighted value we gave for that element was the quality of obtaining the funding. So looking over the information here based on the actual dollar figures that have been successfully and grants that the firms have been able to attain, there were 2 firms that actually came up as far as we all agree on the top 2. One was the Calvin Giordano and Associates. They have been successful as well to obtain some grant money, but that was more like, you know, minor projects such as beautification, some local, you know, minor projects that entailed $250,000, just to say a figure. Then we looked at Pennoni, and here there's actually what they're specified on about $270 million in grants obtained with implementing projects. So based on that criteria and obtaining the funding and knowing that we have in August this great opportunity, and what we're asking of them is just to, you know, move forward with this creation of this planning document that's going to cost the village $20,000. And in this planning document, we just want to make sure that that we're moving forward, that the Pennoni firm, or that we move forward with this $20,000, that we're going to get a document that is going to specify the financial impact, the engineering impact for us to evaluate from now to that August timeframe to ensure that indeed, okay, are we committed to make this financial movement, ask those questions. Like Steve mentioned, there's going to be workshops that are going to be necessary to have not only with the council, but as well with the residents, because the residents need to be involved. So the initial state right now is just having that approval of this document for them to move forward and create this whole, the impact. How is it going to impact us as a village? Right now, we're not saying that we're going to go open the streets and we're going to start moving. We see this opportunity. The August timeframe, there's the funding that we can get some grant money available. And right now, we're in a time, we're in May. Yes, it's going to be somewhat aggressive, timeline to August, but we need to be on board. This is the opportunity to make this happen, especially this year that we're giving public works very high importance in our top 5 priority. That's why we've engaged David, and then Steve, you can add. You could add a little bit more of what this document is going to entail, just besides the financial, implications, the engineering, so the rest of the council feels secure that this $20,000 is not that we're going ahead and, opening ground or anything. It's just an analysis to say, well, are we fully committed to move forward with this exercise of what it implies financially, engineering-wise, and then we're going to have from now, May, we're going to have June, July, until the August timeframe to collectively have meetings, workshops, and to move forward with this decision. So that is all why we're deciding to move forward with this $20,000. And Steve, if you may add what we're going to get based on that $20K on if that's, if you can disclose that. Yeah.
Yeah, DEP calls it a facilities plan. It's one of the requirements before you can apply. That has to accompany your application. So like I said, the great thing is you already have a great start with the Craig A. Smith document. It just has to be tweaked and check all the DEP boxes. But as part of that, one of the requirements is once that's all done, they would require 3 alternatives to be evaluated. You got to show them the 20-year cost for all 3 of those and make a case for why you're picking the selected alternative. When you reach that conclusion, that's your proposed project. Then we'll have to put together a business plan. We'll have to show what are going to be the expenses, assuming an 80% grant and a 20% loan. What are your expenses going to look like, and what are your revenues going to? going to look like. So we'll have to be talking with the county, and we'll work out there'll have to be an interlocal that will have to be signed, have to figure out your billing, all that sort of stuff. But bottom line is they're going to underwrite your project. They're going to make sure that whatever we submit, they're going to make sure that you have the financial ability to pay back your 20% loan. Prior to doing that, so we're going to do this all in the next 30 days. We're going to have a public hearing in June to talk about this planning document. We'll say it's the final discussion before the application goes in. We can have workshops before, but when the purpose of that public hearing is to give the public and the council an opportunity to ask any questions. We have to reveal what the project is, what the financial implications of it is, and to answer any questions. If there's the consensus to move forward with that at that point, the council would then have to pass a resolution, which will give you a sample copy of one, to move forward to allow David to make application for the funding in August. Again, doesn't obligate you to anything. It just gets your hook in the water, so to speak, to try to catch a fish.
So out of the 3 that you represented last year, when did you start the process with them?
It varied. It wasn't this quick. We have had, quite frankly, this all started when Obama got elected back in 2008. For the first time ever, they gave grants. He said that, because this program's been around since the 70s, but it's been 100% loan money. So really only the big cities were participating. Small cities could never come up with the money for planning and engineering to get an application in. So President Obama put in a policy that said, you know what, 20% of the state's budget now has to be awarded in grants to go to small cities, less than 10,000 people. So that was new. That's why there's not a lot of folks out there doing this. But then they overcommitted their money. I won't get into what they did, but so they put a halt on this program for the last 3 years prior to last year. It's now coming out of hibernation, and now it's being funded. Trump's talking about putting more money into this for infrastructure, for shovel-ready projects. So we think it's just a great time to have a shovel-ready project in this program. And any infrastructure program, I bet somebody lunch, when they figure out how much money, they're going to put it through the state revolving fund programs. And that's eligible for water projects, wastewater projects, and stormwater projects. So we're talking about stormwater and wastewater here.
So what would some of your concerns be in starting this project now, since we only have a few months?
Just having enough time. There's a lot to do. I mean, the good thing, and that's where I was going with that story. When this first came out, everybody was shocked. We told about 10 cities. 3 of us took us up on it and said, all right. And they paid out of pocket for the design and for the planning. And all 3 of them got up to $2 million worth of funding at that time. It was the first round. The issue with that was we had 60 days to do the planning and the design. We got a lot more time here because we're just talking about the planning and asking for the design money. So we'll commit to you that we will meet that deadline. We've done this 20 times in the last 6 years. We will get it done. So you will be eligible come August if you choose to move forward.
My last question is, how are you getting paid? What are we paying you?
I'm not getting paid anything at this point.
Right now.
But it would be the $20,000 to finish the planning document.
So El Portal has paid you nothing to date?
We have an assignment for $5,000 to, we went to Tallahassee and met to make sure you were eligible. And we've actually submitted a preliminary planning document, which we spent way more than $5,000, just because we were hopeful. We took a business risk that you'd see the opportunity and be interested in following through. So there's actually a draft of that document that's already been submitted. Again, it doesn't obligate you anything, but it was mostly the environmental work that was submitted, and there was, we'll call it a draft of the engineering. But we'll have to finish that off and do a real economic analysis and an alternatives evaluation. We didn't do that yet, really.
Okay, I think we need to move on, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to conclude, say my final statement, that one of the reasons why this was so exciting to me was because it connects with all the other things that are happening in the village right now. These projects that Proservia will talk about in terms of the form-based code and the development that will be coming I think that this is a perfect time for the village to take advantage of moving forward with infrastructure upgrades. We have the opportunity. We already have some momentum going with the things that are happening here at what I call the Village East or El Portal East, and what's happening at the sanctuary. I think I think it will be really unfortunate if we don't seize this moment. I think it's a great thing, and it's your responsibility, it's your decision. But I really urge you to consider it positively, because I think that this will be the kind of thing that will be wonderful for the village to begin to move some of the concerns with flooding and continue to depend on septic tank for our wastewater.
The last thing I'd like to add, I think there's a lot of moving pieces right now in El Portal, and one of the things that probably would have helped at least me feel more comfortable moving forward is, because we have 3 major areas of development, with that's going to come some development agreements and impact fees, so we don't even know what that's going to look like. So I just, to be able to make decisions that deal with money that belongs to our residents, having all the pieces together helps me make a better decision. And we don't have that. We don't know what that's going to look like. And I think that's going to probably happen at our next meeting. But all these pieces together help us have everything in front of us and realize, okay, this is what we're going to have here, and this is what we're going to have here. And, there's going to be we don't know what that looks like right now. We don't know if it's going to be an impact fee. We don't know if it's a development agreement. We know if it's going to be an exaction. We haven't seen that yet. We're still awaiting that report. And so all those moving pieces, because there's a lot of moving pieces in El Portal. And, sometimes when things look too good, that's great. You got to take a step back and look at the totality of it. So, but I'm ready to move forward. I don't want to,
Something else?
I know we've been here for a long time, and I know, Erwin, we need to.
I just have one quick final comment. I hear what you're saying. The good news is, I believe, and we have experience starting up brand new utilities in Florida, and some of the challenges that you're going to face, because you don't have a wastewater utility at this point. There's ordinances you're going to have to put in place, there's rates you're going to have to put in place, and our local agreements you need to put in place. I believe, because we've already started that thought process, as a matter of fact, we're putting some things down on paper for the village to consider. I believe this process is going to prod that conversation, because they're going to force you to have ordinances in place and have these conversations that will probably benefit your negotiations with your development. Because, we'd want to not see the village leave any money on the table because you didn't have an ordinance in place and put a development condition on development.
Thank you for being
Anyway.
here. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Do we have, do we have to vote on this tonight? I mean, is it, it's a line item, but I don't see it as something we're voting on. I just see a recommendation.
No, there's an ordinance to
There's a resident.
there's a reso.
But was it publicly noted, or we're just putting the reso on the agenda
The
this evening?
item is on the agenda. The agenda noted,
It noted to be voted? Where?
no, there's an item on the agenda.
That says engineering services selection
The
committee.
answer is not that you have to vote on it.
Okay,
The answer is that you may vote on it. It's
Okay.
on the agenda, you may vote on it, you're not required to.
okay. It's the will of the council. If there's a motion to move forward, I believe I did see the resolution, which I would have preferred the resolution, as we have committed, is going to be received by the clerk on the Wednesday before.
The
Or at
resolution
least-
just says blank, fill in the names.
But it's going
Or-
to require money, and it's going to require the name of an organization, correct?
Well, you have to fill in, if you make the select, you have a proposal.
Uh-huh,
You've had submissions.
uh-huh.
So the resolution merely says, if you're making a selection, if you're voting on it, you fill in the name of who you've chosen. That means you've accepted their proposal.
I leave it to the council. Is there a motion for, to move forward with the RFQ?
I would like to bring the motion to move forward with the RFQ.
So made by Councilperson Dre. Is there a
But he has
second?
to name who. You have several proposals. You have to specify which one you want to accept as part of it.
Let's specify then. We would like to make the motion, I would like to make the motion to move forward with the selection of Penani, to move forward with the approval of this RFQ. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Is there a dollar amount that has got to be noted ahead of?
Well, my understanding is the proposal calls for a $20,000 fee.
Correct.
That's part of the proposal. You're moving
Correct.
to- The motion is to accept their proposal, so yes, it includes the terms that
Okay.
are in their proposal.
So should I restate it then?
No, I stated fine. Your motion was to accept, in regard to that RFQ, to accept the proposal of Panani.
Perfect.
And it was seconded.
This is
The
like-
the motion's been made by
You're in discussion.
Councilperson Dre and the second by Councilperson Roman. Any discussion before I move to vote?
So the 20,000, because I have a question, just want to be clear.
Yes, yes.
The $20,000 is to, we're voting to agree to that. And that's what we're going to be paying regardless if we get the grant or not?
Correct,
Yes.
correct.
Do you have any questions? Anything else? Actually, I'll close the council meeting, open up for public comments before we make a final vote. State your name and address for the record, sir.
Come up to the
You
podium.
need to come,
Please. My name is Mohammed Sharifuzzaman, and I'm with Calvin Giordano and Associates. I'm a project manager with them. We submitted a proposal package for this RFQ, so I just wanted to say hello to you all and say my presence. I'm here. Few things I just want to mention that Calvin Giordano and Associates, we did a lot of work in Miami-Dade County, especially, and also in Broward County, and we successfully obtained major grant for various cities like City of Oakland Park, City of Hallandale Beach, over 5 billion, over 22 million. So it's not a little bit of money that we received for our work. So we did have extensive grant experience as well. You are in Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade County is a very special for drainage. I honor, I respect your evaluation, that's fine, but you may have to consider that, whatever master plan you already have in place, it is properly evaluated for what your residents need instead of rushing, your grant approval just to get the project done. But, you had multiple consultants before to make this master plan. There should be some value engineering to it, proper evaluation to it. So I do respect your evaluation and evaluation committee's decision. That's fine. So I just wanted to let you know I'm here. That's all.
thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I'll close public comment and open it up back to the council meeting. There is a motion on the table. Any other discussion? Mr. Manager, can I have roll call?
Roll call. Councilperson Dreher,
Yes.
Councilperson Roman,
I'll vote. I'm just going to ask one question.
I'm going to say yes.
Councilperson Mathis?
Yes.
Mayor Cubillo?
No.
The vote passes on a score of 3-1. You have any comments?
Thank you both.
We'll look
Initiative
forward
getting this
to
done.
receiving your contract so we can get an appropriate document executed.
All right, the next thing I want to, is Resolution 2017 Land Development Amendments. This is our second reading. As you all remember, at the last council meeting, we had an exact date per the attorney where we had to bring things, Chapter 17 back up for this committee meeting, this council meeting. So at this time, I have, I would like to hear from Juan, and then I also am going to want to hear from Raul.
Good evening, Council. Juan Moyerat, Planning and Zoning. Do you want me to read the resolution for the record?
No, Attorney Geller, can you read the resolution, please?
Sure.
Sorry about that.
An ordinance of the Village of El Portal, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances by amending Chapters 1, 3, 5, 14, 17, 19, 21, and 24 in order to adopt a form-based code, adopting a new zoning map, harmonizing development review procedures, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for conflicts, repealer, severability, codification, and an effective date. Ordinance number 2017 I don't see the number
There's
on
no
here.
dash, I know.
But in any case, it's second reading.
Yes. If you all remember, this was the chapter where I had a lot of questions, and one of the concerns was a lot of the language that was being changed. And as it relates to the work of our in-house would be predominantly transferred over to Placerbia. And so we never had the workshop. That wasn't followed through. So I wanted to hear from Juan and then from Raul as far as what we may do next. I'm not comfortable with passing 17, yes.
Let me just say one word, Mayor. It was noticed properly for tonight, so it's before you.
Yes.
With that said, if there is an unreadiness, and if it's the pleasure of council to be sure that the workshop is held, as long as the matter, let me rephrase that. It is certainly within your discretion as a council to postpone the item, if you do so to a date certain, it does not have to be re-advertised. There's no expense to it.
Okay.
If you were to postpone it indefinitely, you'd have to renotice it.
Got it.
Or, of course, you can act on it tonight, that's your privilege. But if you postpone it to a date certain and instruct that, your expectation is prior to that time that you would be able to have the workshop, that is well within your discretion to do. And as I said, if it's a date certain, there's no cost to the village to do it.
Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Got it, yes.
Can I make a suggestion? I suggest that we table it and date certain the reading and make the date certain for the workshop.
Well, that's what we were supposed to do at the last council meeting. We were supposed to get back to the clerk and give her some dates.
I did. That I was available.
Go ahead.
If I may, I'd
Yeah.
like to propose a timeline that might be
Help.
agreeable. So, in our discussions with Raul as well, who's present here tonight, and contingent also to his agreement to this further here on the record, we would like to meet internally, the staff, and see what scenarios are potentially come to us. Let's say a rezoning application or a comp plan amendment, which, we've just done one. Once we have those scenarios figured out, and knowing how the council feels about having an involvement in these decisions, the council would then decide which items, what scenarios they want their input in. Based on those scenarios and where the council feels they need to have an input, we would then draft the procedure. We would build it from the ground up because we feel that right now there's a lot of, and I think that we've discussed this before, there's a lot of things in Chapter 17 that may be a little bit too overwritten. There are some inconsistencies that we would like to clean up, and I think that we're all in agreement there. So I'm in agreement with the council, and I recommend, I believe, what you're moving towards, which is let's table this until we have a clear procedure in front of you. There's also, you should have received in your packets as well, some comparables for proposed fees, zoning fees, that have not been updated since 2003. There's comparables with, I believe, there's 6 or 7 cities that you've received. There's maximums, minimums, and averages that will also inform you how 17 needs to be modified as well further than what you've got in front of you. I put this out there for discussion. Obviously, it's your decision, but our recommendation is to build it from the ground up, knowing what your involvement or having you tell us where your involvement needs to be, and also taking into consideration what the attorney mentioned at a previous council meeting, which was you are facing challenges ahead with very large development, and so this thing needs to be built in a way that you're comfortable with, not taking what you have, deleting a few things, adding a few things. That just I from a professional standpoint, I would feel more comfortable if you looked at it from scratch.
Mayor?
Yes.
Let me just say that we agree that it needs to be substantially redone so that it's a modern planning process. I would suggest, for whatever it's worth, it's obviously completely at your discretion, but trying to be sure that the process gets done for your June meeting is a bit risky with getting a workshop held
I agree.
as you want to do. So I would propose to you that you postpone it until your July council meeting. That should provide ample time for coordination. And keep in mind that if that, for some reason, didn't take place, it could be postponed again till September, since you don't meet in August. But rather than putting it off that far now, I would suggest to you that you look at postponing it to a date certain, to your July council meeting. That will allow the clerk to coordinate with members, including the absent vice mayor, about dates for a workshop, and would give time for the engineer, the consultant, the attorney's office, the manager. Or
Now, is this just for Chapter 17, or what are we doing with Chapter 5?
the whole ordinance? It would be, to adopt it, it's an ordinance, so you really probably want to postpone the ordinance or not. You can move on it, but.
May I?
Yes.
There's pieces of development regulations all over your chapters. So in fact, I was talking to Raul a minute ago before the hearing, and we were discussing some things that are on 5 that should be on 24. So absolutely correct. I believe that we just need to go through the code and consolidate and see a proper procedure based on the scenarios that we foresee, which are not envisioned in the code today.
I'm okay with that. But I guess my question is, I thought there were things in Chapter 5 that needed to come to life sooner than 17 as it relates to the development that we have moving forward. Am I wrong? Raul, Juan? I thought that's what we discussed, where...
The fees.
Yes.
Yes. The fees, I think, are the only, there's those fees, those are the zoning fees, and then there's also the building fees.
Yes.
The fees are the only thing that are going to affect development right away.
Yeah.
Everything else, there is procedure in place. It's just very cumbersome
Yeah.
and it's very complicated. It's doable, but again, it's not.
Yes.
Let me add that my comment was only related to the ordinance that's in front of you. There's nothing about the pending ordinance that says that you cannot make other changes to any part of your code, including in those chapters. So where the manager has just recently promulgated some proposed fees, and you've got a report that's come in from your consultant, there's nothing about postponing second reading on this ordinance that would interfere with your adopting a revised fee schedule at your June meeting.
But the fees that we're going to be receiving has nothing to do with this. I was talking about the building and permit fees in Chapter 5. Because there's two different fees that we're.
If you wanted to move forward and consider things like that at the June meeting, there's nothing that prohibits you from doing that, except to the extent that if it is an ordinance that's required, then you can do first reading on that in June. You can't, obviously, you can't do two readings at the same meeting, but you would be online to do first reading for any fee issues that you wanted to address in June, and still have second reading in July at the same time you're moving this ordinance.
So we could pass Chapter 5 in June and 17 in July?
You could, no.
Okay, that's what I didn't think so. I didn't think so.
No.
That's what I didn't think so.
Pass
The fees.
different amendments
Okay,
to Chapter 5 than are here.
Got it.
But if, to
Got
the
it.
extent it's an ordinance.
Got it. Okay.
It's first
Fine.
reading in June.
fine.
If I may, one final note. There is contingency in the code today that allows the council, or allows the village to charge the applicant on a consultant basis. So there's no risk here in terms of, if we don't update these fees, you're going to go in the red. There is, though, like I said, there is certain things that are worrisome. There's no zoning change fee. There's no land use amendment fee, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of gaps in the fee structure here that I believe that it would be wise to include. But if there's a zoning amendment that comes in front of you, there is somewhere in the code that says that the applicant will pay for the fees that the village incurs.
There's a caveat.
Yes. Yeah. Raul, you want to come say anything? Thank you for being here, Raul. Nice to see you at our council meetings.
My pleasure. Raul Rodriguez, building official for the village. I agree with the fact that we need to postpone this Chapter 17, and maybe not just to July, but to September. And I was talking to David today, and we need to work on the fee schedule. And I commit myself to do a comparison from about maybe 4 or 5 cities within the vicinity of El Portal, and have it ready for your June meeting, so that we can address that. And there's a whole bunch of things in Chapter 5 that need to be addressed. And like one was saying today, we're talking about today, and it's zoning issues that are part of that Chapter 5. They're still Chapter 5 makes reference to the Southborough Building Code, and the Southborough Building Code is not in existence since 2001. So there's things that need to be changed in that code. And the fees are extremely low in that. So we have some major projects coming in there that will be way under budget if we don't do something with the fees.
All right.
So-
Okay.
And Mayor, let me just add, I don't disagree with Mr. Rodriguez, who's a very smart guy. It might take till September, but I still would suggest to you that you try for July, see where you are, with the understanding that, if it's not ready, you postpone it again till September, but at least you can give it a shot.
Okay.
And these other issues on the fees, if we could get them, again, I want to be clear, if it's an ordinance.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I have to go back and look,
Yeah.
some things can be changed by
resolution,
resolution.
yeah.
That can be done at one meeting. But if it's an ordinance by getting ready for first reading in June, you can catch second reading up still in July if you're ready to do that. There is, though, as has been pointed out very correctly by Plus Urbia, I mean, don't get any ideas, Kerry, because there's a catch-all in there that would enable us to still, seek reimbursement for whatever
Yes.
cost, but
Yes.
better
Yeah.
to take the approach
Upfront.
that's been recommended
Right,
to you
yes.
by your staff.
And some of the cities, and I don't know if the village has the same thing, that the fee schedule is usually done through a resolution.
Okay.
I
Not, I
haven't
don't,
looked, but maybe.
yeah, so we might just do them one time and not.
Okay,
He's
if you
gonna
can
have to
if
look
you
at
can
it.
let David know, and David would let us know, that'd be great.
Okay,
Thank you, Raul.
all right, my pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. I think we're good. So just to reiterate, Raul's going to take a look at whether or not we can do it through resolution, get it back to our manager so that we can go through the fee schedule at our June council meeting. And then at July / maybe September, Chapter 17, by then we've gone through a timeline, emails, workshops to feel most comfortable to be able to pass Chapter 17.
To pass the ordinance.
Excuse me, the pass the ordinance, exactly.
In the interest of clarity and making sure that this moves forward, would you mind are you giving me the green light to meet with Raul, to go through staff and code enforcement and make sure that we have those scenarios? So when we meet with council, we have exactly the kind of information that we need to inform you best?
That would be great, and as long as we get that information in our packet, not the day of a meeting. Yes.
No, I mean,
Yeah, like you're gonna come together and
we're
you're
gonna
gonna,
meet- we're
you're
gonna
gonna
meet
meet
without
and.
you.
No, yeah, I know. But when you guys have consolidated the information and you have a schedule that you want the council to be able to review, I don't want to receive it the day of a meeting I want to receive it in my packet, when I get my packet on Friday night.
Mayor, if there is going to be a motion to postpone second reading to a date certain, hopefully the July meeting, then the point, I think, that's being made is that the motion should also state that Plus Urbia is authorized to conduct those internal staff meetings with the engineer. Certainly, the manager is going to be involved, as will we. And they need the authorization in order to move forward with that, and that should simply be part of the motion, which is why we're postponing and what we're trying to be sure is going to be ready.
Perfect. Okay. Councilperson Mathis said a motion of what the attorney just said. Would that suffice?
For the record,
Do I-
yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all right, second by Councilperson.
For the record, the motion would be, if I'm correct, Councilperson, is that it's a motion to postpone second reading until the July council of this ordinance, till the July council meeting, and to authorize Plus Urbia to conduct follow-up meetings with staff to be able to have the workshop held and to have meetings with members of council to be able to get us prepared to consider adoption on second reading at the July meeting.
That's what I said.
That cover you?
That's what I said.
Thank you.
Right. Why not, guys?
There's first, second, all in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thanks. All opposed? All right. Thank you.
I'm sorry,
Thank
who
you.
seconded?
It was second by Councilperson Roman.
It'd be better if you did a quick.
Roll call.
I'll do a roll call.
Okay, roll call. Councilperson Dreher?
yes.
Councilperson Roman?
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis?
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos?
Yes.
There you go.
one final item before I step down. We
That's great.
We put together this board for you to have. I believe you also have the complete zoning map. Well, I think we left it here at some point. If not, we'll print one out.
I think it's in Denise's office.
This, at the end of the day, is the zoning code. So ideally, or the idea is that you put this in the office somewhere so that your stakeholders, your villagers don't have any doubt about what they can and cannot do. But ultimately, this is with some,
Nice.
Very nice.
We'd probably like to have a little bit more color, but I think it will
yeah,
be great.
you want me to?
Well,
I have a blue
well,
pen.
we're gonna talk about color real quick now, as I skipped over 2 items. Council, what are we doing with our official photos at the Village Hall? Talk about color.
I'll come whenever you want.
Okay, can we please make that happen?
What's
I
that?
believe Councilperson Dre just told me he took his picture on Saturday, thank you.
Mine are in my mailbox. I just got to approve them.
Okay, so, Mr. Manager,
Yes.
Attorney? Councilperson Mathis?
I haven't done it yet.
All right, let's get it done. Talk about color on the walls. Let's get our pictures up. You know, we have residents of Lilliput, to me, did you hear me talk about this, right? Official photos on the wall, all right. The next thing, real quick, I want to go on is, 4th of July falls on a Tuesday. I would like to propose to the council if we can have our annual 4th of July barbecue on Saturday, July 1st, if that's okay with everybody, so that it's fair to everybody, so they don't have to be here on Tuesday. So if I could just get a motion to approve that and a second.
I'll make a motion.
Motion been made by Councilperson Mathis, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Dre. Can I get a roll call?
Roll call. Councilperson Dreher.
Yes.
Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis.
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Thank you, yes.
At what time?
It's always 11:30 to 2:30. Just, okay. Excellent. Let's go to the, thank you for being so patient over there. Brownsfield Designation Resolution 2017-14. Attorney, can you please read that to the record?
Yes, ma'am. A resolution of the Village Council of the Village of El Portal, Florida, making certain findings, designating approximately 13.8 acres of land located at 8500 and 8360 Biscayne Boulevard, as further identified in Exhibit A as a brownfield area pursuant to Florida Statute Section 376.80 for the purpose of environmental remediation, rehabilitation, and generally furthering economic development in the village, providing transmittal to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and the Miami-Dade County Department of Regulatory and Economic Resources, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. I know I missed a committee meeting on this, and I apologize again for that. I'm comfortable with the resolution. We did the same thing for the Barentine Brothers in the annexed area. So if I can have a motion to approve Resolution 2017-14.
All motion.
Motion by Councilperson Roman, is there a second?
Well,
It's for discussion, so
just, yeah, we can leave it for discussion.
I need a second.
Mathis?
Well, this is on the Brownsville, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually,
I need a second. There's a motion on the table, I need a second. Second by Councilperson Mathis, thank you. Now we can have a discussion of the motion. So, any questions to the manager, or we can have, you can come up and go over this resolution a bit more.
Good evening, my name is Carrie Barsh. I'm joined by Jim Miller. We're here on behalf of the property owner, and I'm an attorney with offices at 333 Southeast 2nd Avenue. And Jim, will you put your name and address to the record?
Sure, Jim Miller, 10406 Southwest 186 Terrace.
We're here in support of this. We ask that you move it forward. It does require, by the statute, another reading. So in that time frame, we are going to present, there's criteria, and we have to have specific outreach to the neighborhood and posting. And so we're going to put that packet together and have it, Madam Mayor, in your package before, on the Friday night, so that you have it in sufficient time before
Thank you.
your meeting. And so that's what we urge you to proceed with that. And we're here to answer any questions the council may have.
And Mayor, I'll
This is
just
same-
note, please note that you've all received some rezos on your desk today. There were a few typos in the one that was
Yes.
originally submitted from the
Yes.
clerk, so please be sure you're looking at the corrected one, but
Yes.
there's no significant difference.
Thank you.
Yes, understood. I have no questions. I said this is not the first time we do this, and we went through 2 readings. And then in between both readings, AJ had a workshop, and there's certain steps that you all must follow.
Correct.
So I'm comfortable. Is there any questions from the council?
Yeah, Carrie, last time we spoke at the committee meeting, we brought in to request for more information, right? So we get our packages, right? So for some reason, we don't have that information in our package, so the information is basically just to give a recap. I'm sorry, can we just,
Yeah.
can we, but I need your attention though.
No, I'm listening.
Okay. So in the last committee meeting, this was brought up to be brought up to the council, right, for approval. But based on this, the Brownsville, it's a classification whether there is a zone that has been, designated for hazardous materials. So based on the committee meeting, we requested actually a study. So we get our packages, right, of all this information, right, or that supporting material for us to make that judgment, to move forward with the resolution. So we requested, and I think, Carrie, you committed as well to
Right.
provide with that information. So I just wanted to follow up regarding that request.
Jim, well, we presented, just to let you know, you requested that we provide documentation that it was in fact contaminated. And so we presented a report that was done by Mr. Jim Miller that talked about the documented contamination.
Okay, who was that presented to? Because that's what I'm saying, we get at least my side, I didn't get the material, right?
Yeah, and Jim, you want to say you're preparing something that came in late, and submitted it, didn't make your packet.
Sure, we have a package that actually identifies where the contamination is on the property. It's with the soil and groundwater, and that, you'll have that for the second package. But for the submittal that you should have today, it was a discussion of where the contamination is, what was found, and some of the concentrations.
We presented it to your village attorney. Jim got it to me, and I presented it going forward. But we knew that we'd also have a second reading. We have to present all the other additional information, the outreach that occurs between the first and second reading, et cetera. But that's in 2014, and there's a whole list of things on the Durham website. So I don't think there's any doubt that the site is contaminated.
Correct, you mentioned that last time that there was a website, but to our understanding then, if this was, from what I'm understanding, you submitted this to our village attorney.
Correct.
Okay, let me ask then the village attorney.
We sent that when Jim submitted it to me. He'd done a document, he'd actually done a graphic, but that didn't really provide the confirmation that you wanted. So then I asked Jim to provide the report.
Right, so
I'm sorry, Carrie, just to, slight correction, I haven't seen any document
No, I
or
know, and I'm
anything. That's,
sorry, we can-
in order to make, informed decision, that's what I requested in the committee meeting, just to make sure we had some information, some study, especially, Jim, you're an engineer, right? And you have some, study, or in this case, for us to make an informed decision, this is at least what was presented in order to move forward with the Brownsville designated area. The reason why, as you explained last time, the Brownsville, will allow to move things faster, special, considerations from the state as well and returns as well. So,
It was received by me this morning at 10:18 a.m.
What was received? I'm sorry. Can you
It was
specify?
received by me this morning.
Correct.
at
I understand
10:18
that. But what was received? Just so we're clear.
Oh, okay, let me read into the record. In connection with our client's request for designation of the property owned by Wealthy Delight as a brownfield, I am attaching a summary Phase 1 Environmental Site Assessment Report prepared by Jim Miller, P.E. of Hydrologic Associates USA. It goes on to talk about Mr. Miller's background working on the issue, providing this summary environmental report in response to a question raised at the Planning and Zoning meeting on May 8th by Councilmember Dreyer relative to the documentation of the property's contamination. The attached summary speaks to the history of contamination that was well documented in the public records and was identified in the Phase 1. Mr. Miller and I will be present at the Village Council meeting tonight to answer any questions.
When can
And
we do tonight?
it
That's
was
a lot.
copied to that meeting tonight,
All right.
and this
That-
was copied to the manager this morning as well.
Thank you very much. That suffices my question.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we're sorry, but we just turned it over as soon as we got it. We're
Good.
sorry.
Thank you.
And in the future, should we, in light of the fact we know you have your Friday packet, should we submit through the village attorney or the village clerk? or
Our clerk, the
village
clerk,
manager?
The village
your village clerk.
Okay.
But let me say that sending it to me is appreciated,
Great.
and copying the manager is
Correct.
appreciated.
Great.
But if it's going to be for the agenda, then it should certainly go to the clerk. It can be addressed to me, it can be addressed to the manager,
Perfect.
but it needs to go to the clerk if in advance.
We
so
will
it
do
can
that, and we are sorry, but that,
No,
we
that's-
followed up on it, it just didn't get the right person.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Sure.
it.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, I would close the council meeting, open it up to anybody in the public. Have any questions about this resolution? Hearing none, I'll close it. Mr. Manager, can I have roll call,
Roll
please?
call. Councilperson Dreyer?
Yes.
Councilperson Roman?
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis?
Yes.
Mayor Cubillo?
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0.
Great, thank you. Oh, thank you for being here, thank you for being
See you
patient.
at the next hearing.
Second
Thank you very
hearing.
much.
Thank you.
At this time, we have our third resolution. Mr. Attorney, can you please read it to the record?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you have.
Resolution is a resolution of the Village of El Portal, Florida, authorizing the village manager to piggyback on the Florida Sheriff's Association contract number FSSA 16-VEL 24.0 for the purchase of 5 police vehicles, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Great, thank you. At this time, this is we've had this conversation at the public safety meeting a few times with regards to moving forward and purchasing the 5 police vehicles. There was some back and forth whether or not we would do lease and purchase. It was then brought to us that the purchase would be a better avenue. I do urge that if this does go through this evening, actually, we can have that conversation once this goes through. But this is something that, if it goes through, needs to be handled expeditiously, as our police officers and vehicles are in dire need, and this process takes a while. So there is a resolution on the table. Do I have a motion to accept the resolution?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
before we proceed with the resolution, I believe that Irwin was, Mr. Williams had been informed that the cost had changed because the sale of the vehicles, the information that we have been processing was for the lease.
Yes.
Assuming that the lease and the sale will be the same. My information is that that is not the case, that we would have to provide that information. What I believe that we may be able to, and that's in consideration with the attorney, that we may be allowed to proceed as long as the cost of the sale does not exceed what you're prepared to vote upon now, and that allows us to move forward. And then, if it does exceed that cost, we will bring this back to the council.
What was the dollar amount that we had approved the committee? Was it 145?
145, yeah.
145, 150, for the 5 cars, correct?
That is correct. So that's what I think it will be a convenient way to approach this. We have, the chief and Officer Santos working on this. We thought that we would have been able to get that information by now, but clearly we are not prepared to provide you what the actual sale will be. But what I'd like to recommend is that you take action on a maximum of what the lease would have been, and then, if it exceeds that, we will bring it back.
Okay.
If not, we will be able to proceed with it.
Attorney Gelli, you want to word that for us in terms of a motion?
Yes, what we would do is take the existing resolution which authorized piggybacking on the Florida Sheriff's Association grant. Now, note that by doing that, you are stating that it cannot exceed whatever is provided for in the Florida Sheriff's Association grant. However, in Section 2 of the resolution before you, where it states authorizes the manager to piggyback and enter into a purchase agreement in accordance with the FSA contract, add the following words: at a total cost not to exceed, and what is the number?
140, I believe, 145.
$145,000?
Yeah.
So just add those words that limits the authority of the manager. At a total cost not to exceed $145,000. And we're interlineating that at the very end of Section 2.
Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the resolution, adding the line item at the end of Section 2 as amended, giving the directive to the manager to proceed with the police department at a cap of 146?
145.
145.
Technically, what you should do is ask for a motion to amend the resolution first.
Okay. Is there a motion to amend the resolution?
So moved.
Made by Councilperson Mathis. Is there a second? Second by Councilperson Woman. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now, is there a motion to amend, what's the, we have to give
Now
the
that you have-
amended
that
language?
You've passed the amendment, so now is there a motion to approve the resolution as amended?
Is there a motion to approve the resolution as amended? Motion's been made by Councilperson Woman to accept the resolution with the amendment. It's been seconded by Councilperson Mathis. We have a motion on the table. Any discussion before I open up for public comment? All right, hearing none. I'm going to close the council meeting, open up for public comment with regards to the resolution to purchase 5 police vehicles. Hearing none, I'll close the public comments, open it up to the commission. Any further comments on this?
Councilperson Woman?
Roman.
What did I say? I was going to say superwoman.
Councilperson Woman.
Well, woman, Roman, you know, come on. Okay, so any discussion?
record.
No.
Okay, hearing none.
Councilperson Roman.
Councilperson, for the record, Councilperson Roman.
Councilwoman Person.
No, this is Councilwoman Roman.
I'll say Roman woman,
Which
it's
is
close.
fine,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, there you go. I guess-
Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
And just for history, and I just want to make this quick, I know initially we were reviewing over car purchase versus leasing. So initially, there was a financial analysis that was presented to us, right? So the analysis consisted of moving forward with leasing versus purchasing. That was the initial analysis. So I just want to understand what changed from leasing to purchasing. Well, why has it changed?
It went back to the Public Safety Committee, and after reviewing and discussing it with the Irwin, it was of better value to the village to do it as a purchase.
I understand that, but what elements were considered and were not considered in the first analysis, which was leasing, or what made it change? What were those values that made it change to a purchase instead of a leasing? Just so I'm clear, because I myself looked at the
No.
initially the analysis of leasing it. I had a couple of questions, some assumptions, for example, depreciation to be taken in consideration in the financial analysis, which wasn't being taken. There was some back and forth, but just so I'm
All of, when Irwin presented it, he ended up presenting as it relates to depreciation, interest, and when he looked at the totality of the 5 years of the lease versus just doing a one outright purchase, there was a savings like of $23,000. So the committee just voted, it says, you know what, you asked for the additional information, and Irwin actually gave us the different information. After we took a look at it, we said, we'll just bring it to the council as a purchase.
okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Hearing none, can I get roll call,
Roll call.
Mr. Manager?
Councilperson Dreher,
Yes.
Councilperson Roman,
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis,
Yes.
Mayor Huillos.
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
May I just make one small recommendation? In the process of working with this with you and with the chief and with Ronnie, Sergeant, and with Officer Santos, I've been told, especially by Officer Santos, is this takes a while. This is not like we're going to get the cars in 2 weeks. So if we can be sure that, I know the chief is out right now. I believe the sergeant is going to be gone for the next couple of weeks, that it's expedited, that we assign, whether it's a sergeant, whether it's Santos, or a couple of people to work together collectively so that we can get some cars in.
And this is the reason why I
Perfect.
recommended to
Okay.
do this way, so that we will not waste any time.
Perfect. All right, thank
Absolutely.
you. No more car jumping.
Madam Mayor, I need to step out.
Councilperson Mathis, your birthday is after midnight, not tonight.
I have family
We're
coming in
We're
town.
almost done, we're almost done.
I have family that is coming
We're,
to town.
we're almost done. We know it's your birthday tomorrow. There was supposed to be a cake here. But,
Don't sing.
wait, we're almost done. I'm gonna go through this mayor's report so fast, you're not even gonna know what happened.
Is you're expected to jump out of it if it was.
All right, okay,
not
stand
gonna
by,
happen.
stand by. We're almost done. Look, we're wasting time. Okay, let's go through the mayor's report. I'm gonna go skip through it. I'll thank Vice Mayor Nickerson and Councilperson Roman for helping me give out the newsletters. I want to thank our police officers, our last farmer's market. We won't do one until next October. I want to thank the police officers, the manager, Robert, for being there for Tree City USA. We had great coverage as we put up a nice sign. It's right on 87th Street, so thank you, thank you. And save the date. The State of the Village is August 22nd at 7 p.m. See that, how fast I was?
27?
Tuesday, August 22nd, and I'll make this available for all the residents. I mean, my report's a little bit lengthier, but in respect of time, I've abbreviated it. So we'll go right into the manager's report.
Manager's report is going to be very brief. My plan to take vacation July 2nd through the 9th. But before I go away, I will be here for the 4th of July. Thank you, Mayor, for changing the date to a Saturday so I can come in and barbecue with all of you.
Yeah,
And
it's on the record.
it's on the record, so I will be here. And that concludes
Okay.
my report.
Tischler Bice will be next month?
Major Vice
Okay.
will be even before next month.
Okay, all right. Our esteemed vice mayor is not here. Councilperson Mathis, do you want to opine on the Armed Forces 5K event, May 20th?
It was great.
It's done.
And it was great.
I want to thank the police officers. They were fantastic, amazing. It was precision. It was great. I want to thank all the sponsors. I want to thank everybody that attended. I want to thank the mayor for giving this task to me and browbeating me to make sure it got done. It's a wonderful thing. I'm just glad that it's done. It's tiresome, but it was a wonderful event. And
Thank you,
ran,
thank you for,
right?
thank you for Greenspoon being
You
here.
ran, right?
Jason Silva was here, thank you, that was very nice. And thank you to our sponsors. We
Yes.
can't do it without them. We had Waste Management, we had
Sent out letters today.
Antique Design Mall and Florida Community Bank. So thank you. Proserpia is due for sponsorship, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Public Works, Chairperson, and Greenspoon Mayor, okay.
July.
Just had a quick question. I know last time we touched on the Public Works Committee about moving forward with the internship, the creation of the profile under FIU, so I just wanted to get an update on that, David.
Yes, as soon as I have answers, and I will be able to respond. I want to be able to give you all of the things that are happening, when we're going to start, so I don't want to give you, information that that have not been confirmed. I'm working on that.
Okay, so you're working on
All of that
the...
stuff will happen before I go away.
Okay, all right.
So
That's-
by the June June council meeting.
No, I'll get that information to you before, so that
Oh, I
you
can
will,
cross this
as I get it done.
Perfect. All right, that's all for now. We touched on the other items.
All right, public safety, I'm going to make it brief. I'm very excited. We got police vehicles. I can actually cross that out. There is a lot of questions. I was not happy at the Public Safety Committee meeting, but we're not going to get into that. I've discussed in great length with the manager. Sergeant, I'm not going to put you on the spot. You didn't have the answers at the Public Safety Committee. Do you have them tonight? No, I don't. So that concludes my report. Code Enforcement, Chairperson Roman.
Nothing for me.
Planning and zoning, my questions got answered with Irwin, which was about the money, and Tischler Bice we have before June? No,
Yes.
it's going to be, we're going to vote on it in June.
Right.
Okay.
But you will get the information before that. We hopefully be able to, we will talk about the possibility of having some of these things connected so that we can save some of the time in terms of the
Bye, Ms. Pico.
workshops that we want to connect.
Thank you for coming. Admin and Finance,
Evaluations, I've only received 2.
I met with the manager today. I did not want to complete mine without meeting with him first, and we met today in great length. Okay.
Councilperson
You
Roman?
have mine.
Eunice probably has it. She hasn't given it to me. She's been out. So
Oh, okay.
I have yours.
So now that I met with him, you'll have it before I go out of town. You'll have it on Thursday.
All right.
Attorney Geller.
Manager and I attended mediation with the Human Rights Commission in regard to Michael Knowles. The mediation was spectacularly unsuccessful, unusually so. So that will move forward. We're confident that the village didn't do anything wrong, and we will apparently have the opportunity to prove that.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't go to that. Okay. Unfinished business.
I'm sorry. Can I ask a question
Yeah.
to the manager? I'm sorry, to the attorney. There was an email out on the Miami-Dade water monitor interlocal agreement. I did see David did send out renewal requesting for for you,
The
Joe,
NPDES, the
yes,
discharge?
yes, correct. And so I just wanted to get a quick status on that. Did you get a chance to review it and comply?
It is a standard agreement that we are unlikely to have much opportunity to object to, but it'll be before you for approval for the next meeting. If you do have, though, any thoughts or comments on it, I'd welcome the opportunity to discuss it with you if you have any thoughts about it.
All right, I'm pretty new to this, so
Yeah,
perhaps, yeah. That's why.
There's a consent decree that governs a lot of this that's from the federal court. So quite honestly, there's not very much.
There's no wiggle
There's no
room.
way, yeah,
There's no
exactly.
wiggle room.
No, exactly.
But
Okay.
we will have it in front of you for the formal approval.
For the next
yes.
committee, council meeting?
Yes.
Okay. And as far as I know, you, I appreciate that you approved as well the resolution for the internship. I know we're waiting for you to just get the document. I know we actually did handwriting during that meeting. We had the council
I thought
meeting.
that had been submitted. Am I not correct on that?
I
remember
haven't
working on it.
seen it. I requested that.
I'll go back and
yeah,
check, because I
please.
remember working on it. I
Okay.
thought it was,
Please, if you
I
can.
will certainly make
yes.
sure
And
that-
just CC me if it's available,
Sure.
just so we can close
all right,
that out.
well, it probably will be when the clerk gets back.
Perfect.
because, I remember working on it, but it's possible that it hit a.
Yeah, we'll
I'll
just
find
wait.
it.
Thank you. That's
But
all.
let me say, just so that we're clear for the record, we do that for clarity,
Yes, correct.
but it is adopted, it is
It
in
is already
place,
adopted.
It is official.
Correct.
It is done because it's in the record. But
Correct.
we do that just so that the records are clear, and I'll make sure that is done.
Thank you very much.
Did you sign all the ordinances that the Madam Clerk left for you? Okay, got it, perfect. Okay, at this time, on unfinished business, I just want a reminder, the deadline for the Peacock Express, no one turned anything in last time, is July 6th by noon, and they're being strict, so I have to be strict on that. There is no new business. Anybody in good and welfare would like to add anything? I'd like to add two things. Number one, there is a new restaurant called Sherwood's Bistro. It's inspired by Sherwood Forest in our town. It just opened last night. It's right here on 82nd and Northeast 2nd Avenue. Go support them. It was great food. They have a full bar, so it was really nice. Yes, they have it's right there. You can walk there. So we want to welcome them in our town, and it's 50% off to the police officers all the time.
All right.
Which is amazing. Yeah. The next thing I want to bring up is tomorrow is Representative Campbell's birthday, along with Commissioner Mathis. Senator Campbell. So I will be, as she's having a birthday party at the Miami Shores Country Club, I will be there. So if you guys can stop by, she's our senator, it probably might be a good thing to stop on if
What
you can.
time?
I believe it's 6 to 9. Okay?
Is the
there's an
council
open
person?
Miami
invitation?
Shores, yes. Tell you, right, I'll confirm right now. I will be there. Let me just,
What's the attire?
6:30 to 9:30, sorry, 6:30 to 9:30. I'm probably gonna pop in at around 7:30, okay? Miami Shores Country Club, literally right next door to us. That concludes my good and welfare. Anybody else? Sergeant Huffnagel, state your name and address for the record.
Sergeant Huffnagel, 500 Northeast 87th Street. I just have one quick question. I know you stated that the 4th of July event, I just wanted to make sure where exactly we're going to have it. Are we going to have it at Horace Mann, or we're going to have it back here at the station?
Oh.
Look who's there. Hi.
Gosh.
Sorry.
You know, that's a really good question that I don't have the answer to. I would be inclined to say tot lot, but I think it's a committee, the decision that the committee should make. Last year we had it at Horace Mann, a little labor intensive. I think that was your first event, right?
It was my first event.
A little labor intensive. It was hot. It requires more money. It's it's really going to be contingent to money, because having it at Horace Mann requires more tents, tables, chairs, etc. So I think once we take a look at the budget of public affairs, I want to see how much, if all the money came in for the art fair, if the money that came in for 5K, what sponsors we can get for the 4th of July. It would be nice to sort of have that, re-energize our 80th anniversary, but we can have that answer as a committee next week. Because 4th of July will be here before we know it, I know.
Yes.
Next
It's
Saturday.
right around the corner.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's really around the corner. So I think it's take a look at how many, what do you call it, sponsors that we can get. Because right now, we only have $1,000 allocated, and that's not sufficient.
Okay.
So we'll know within a week. I'll ask the clerk to send the whole committee and the whole council.
I also
Okay.
wanted to introduce Arctic, our community policing canine. And
Arctic steals the show. everywhere.
Just a little feedback about him. He is the first in the state of Florida, but he's number 6 nationwide. And obviously, because of the support of my council and my city manager, I want to thank you all, and that's why he has made it possible. And we do a lot of, we visit the schools, senior citizens, and we do a lot of events. And so he is actually he's actually going to be certified in a few weeks for a service dog. My next step will be therapy. And my goal is that we actually get all municipalities involved in this, because everybody has canines, all departments have canines, but no one can touch them or interact with them. And obviously, you see this training is working very well, and everybody can interact with him, and the kids love him, so.
And when is he going to be on Telemundo?
Yes,
No, she got a call.
Yeah, he's-
She got a call.
we actually got a call that we're going to interview in Telemundo, but fortunately to me, I'm going to Paris, and so we're going to interview
What am I doing wrong with my
in
life?
2 weeks.
I'm serious.
So after I get back,
dog
we'll
on
be a
with
great Huh? No, he's not going to Paris, unfortunately.
Well, Arctic has been well received in the community, so he's been a very nice addition to our office here.
And the
Thank
sergeant has pictures of Arctic at the podium.
On the dais, sitting on the chair.
Interviewing the manager.
Yes.
I think that.
He actually has a Facebook page,
Oh, he
Arctic
does?
Community Policing
I have
Canine.
to like him.
Yes, you have to like him to follow him.
And it's
And I did
really
not-
interesting, excuse me, it's really interesting to see humans interact, and then the dynamic of humans change when a dog comes in.
Yes, and you'll see,
Everything's-
and if you look at his page, you'll read a little bit about the other police departments have created this also. I thought I was the first, but apparently there's 5 of us more out there.
Arctic? How do you spell
Arctic,
it?
ARCTIC, Community Policing Canine. You have a
I did
question?
not forget about our conversation about the 501c3. I am pulling all those records, and I will get that to you.
Yes. When it comes to
Donations. and-
the donations, because I am looking for donations. Actually, there is a doctor that's going to be opening up pediatric.
Everyone knows.
We know who she is really well.
Yes.
She's been before.
She came to the farmer's market, and Sergeant Huffnagel was quick to,
Yes,
Say
so she's
hey.
going to be actually helping me out and sponsoring him when it comes to his usual
Wellness.
vet bills, like the checkups. So
I
she's
already
going to help in that.
I already
amazing.
spoke to the doctor at
amazing.
Smiling Pets, so.
Okay, great. All right.
Thank
Well, that's
you.
it. Thank you.
anything else in good and welfare? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'm motion.
Motion been made by Councilperson Mathis, been seconded by Councilperson Dre. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Our council meeting on May 23rd adjourns at 9:15 PM.
We're getting better.
Yep.